Hey guys, it's Jacolia of Jacolia Gems, and thank you once again for coming back to my page. Now, if you could do me a favor, like the video, comment, subscribe, and share this on all of your social media platforms so that we can get the algorithm going for our Hebraic teachings. So, on today, what I want to place on your mind, although I'm supposed to upload this on the Sabbath, so my apologies for the late upload. I'm going to delve into sex cults, fertilization, deities, how us as Afro-Asiatic people have consistently gone after other gods, other goddesses, and how this has affected us as a Black community. So with that being said, I'm going to jump straight into it. I'm going to use a lot of Egyptian examples, tie it into Sumer, West Africa, and just bring out some historical points. With that being said, the West African Orishas that I mentioned, I'm not going to go into depth about them as much as I do some of the Egyptian and some of the Sumerian, because I want to do separate videos for those coming up. So with that being said, let's get it started. Okay, so the sexualization of a nation, predators in the pulpit. Rape, molestation, sodomy, perversion, marriage, protecting predators, and worship all have a link. We will go into Near Eastern, West African, and biblical customs to tie in the Black community today. By going into beliefs and the practices of biblical nations concerning these things in comparison to the state of the Black family dynamic. First, I will share with you name of selected fertility deities, as first stated, from Near Eastern, West African, and Eurasian cultures to bring relevancy to pop culture as well as traditional beliefs today. So, ancient Sumer, you had this goddess named Nuhersag. And so her name was originally Nima, the name meaning Lady of the Sacred Mountain. Nin means lady, and Harsag means sacred mountain foothill. She was thought to be the mother goddess of the mountains, fertility goddess, Lady of Heaven. She was said to nourish nations by her milk. So she was a breasted deity. She was seen with the Omega symbol in 3000 BC, as well as a horned head, bow at her shoulders. She also carried a mace or baton. As I stated, Nima was her original name. She was also correlated with Dam Gal Nuna or Damkina, called the true wife, which is the consort of Enki. We know that Enki is from Sumer as well, and he was actually who they say would be the Yahweh Elohim, or the Lord God, during creation with his mother Ki in the garden. And so she is also mentioned at Lugal, also known as Nunurch's exploits, called the creator and the whole. And so what I am going to do, guys, is leave down all of these links. As you see while I'm scrolling, I have websites listed. I also have some books listed, and all of my sources are not even listed in the presentation, but I will get that to you guys. So this is a picture of her. And so this is seen as the Omega and the horned head connection. Okay, so this is where libations was being poured to her in the picture up above. So the mother goddess had many epileps, including Shashura, or womb goddess. Tabuts Eli, meaning midwife of the gods, mother of all children, and the mother of the gods. In this role, she is identified with Ki, which I just went into, and the Enuma Elish. She has shrines in both Eridu and Kish. Ki in cuneiform means earth, threshing, hold, floor, hearth, encampment. So we see that these mother goddess deities are seen all over the place. So the horned cow goddess in Egypt, as the tutelary goddess of Upper Egypt and the mythical mother of the king. Nuhet is the original lady of Perwet, having associations with his crown going back to the pyramid text. It is her form as a vulture. She wears it to symmetrical scenes on the upper cornice of the outer entrance. And so, you guys, if we scroll down, you will begin to see the differentiation. And so, although that Nekek and Hathor both wear the crown, the incense offering seen in the third register of the east wall, figure 4.24, there are subtle differences. So right here, there are definitely differences in how the crowns are worn, so that you can be able to tell these netters apart. So Hathor's reciprocal gift for the kings increased offering in the Upper Egypt crown. These are the different type of royal crowns worn by Horus. It's a double crown with ostrich feathers at the back, 2 falcon feathers, ram's horn, and a bass divine disc. So this is Horus right here. Then you will come to the middle, and then you'll see Hathor. So both of these are representations of her. So this is a website. And the book titled, Does the Egyptian Goddess Hathor Derive from a Power of the Great Pyramid to Repel Some Perceived Cosmic Threat? Part 1, What and When Was the Origin of Hathor, by William H. Jennings. And so the Egyptians credits the worship of Hathor by foreigners in Nubia and Canaan. Now, as we know, there are a lot of Egyptologists who give credence to the Nubians for Nakata 1 through Nakata 3 that took place in ancient Egypt. Now, the Nubians, Cushitic people, because they did not like the term Nubian. That was offensive to them. Now we know that they dwelt amongst Israelites as well as other Afro-Asiatic people groups, whether they be from Ham or whether they be from Shem, and that there are a lot of similarities. However, as we go on and we tie things in, you'll begin to make the connections that a lot of things that we were taught were Egyptian in origin actually came from Semitic people. So this is Hathor right here. As you see, she has the scepter. And also this Ankh. What I'll be doing is linking a video down below from Moray Zion Lex, going into the origins of the Ankh being Sumerian, and he goes into the hieroglyphics and equating it with Enki, based on the linguistics breakdown, but also the representation, knowing that the Ankh is representation of being a giver of life. Some people say that the top part represents the womb. That's not anything that I get into publicly. But whenever you see a supposed Egyptian god with the Ankh in hand, then I implore you to go back and see what their origins really were, because that's a Semitic symbol. So this is a book, Hathor, A Reintroduction to an Ancient Egyptian Goddess, by Leslie Jackson. Okay, so this is written about Hathor. O Lady of the Beginning, come thou before our faces, in this thy name of Hathor, Lady of Emerald. So to those who are, I'm going to start at this part so we don't begin in the middle of a thought. Hathor's name, Hat-Haru or Hat-Hor, means house of Horus. There are 2 different gods called Horus, and they are often confused or combined. Horus the elder is the son of the sky goddess Nut, and is the falcon sky god. Horus the younger is the son of Isis and Osiris. Though confusingly, he can also be referred to the son of Hathor. The phrases House of Horus can be translated as the womb of Horus, which refers to Hathor's mother's aspect. It can also be seen as the sky on which Horus flies and the earth over which he presides. As Horus is as Hathor is a sky goddess, she is the obvious home of all flying creatures and sky deities. Her hieroglyphic is of a seated woman wearing a tight dress and crowned by a cow horn supporting a sun disk. Her name can also be written as a falcon inside of the square, representing the bounds of the palace or temple. The Greeks gave many of the Egyptian deities Greek names, which were nothing like the Egyptian names. Hathor kept her own, which suggests that they found it easy to pronounce. They allied with their goddess Aphrodite, the goddess of sexual love. And so, majority of us know that the Grecians placed the Israelites in captivity. What we also need to realize, excuse me, guys, what we also need to realize is that whenever foreigners began to go into Africa, whether it's North, East Africa, Sub-Saharan, West Africa, they were trying to supplant every nation. And so you had some type of, what do I want to say, cooperation between the Egyptians and the Greek people. They shared a lot of similarity, but there was also wars. There are scriptures in the Bible that the Most High talks about the Egyptians and the Assyrian being his people, being his handiwork. So the Egyptians also were scattered, and the whitewashing of Egypt made it easier to whitewash Jerusalem. So we see right here another video that I'll place down, whether it's by Moray Zion Lex or this other historian. So this would be Namar's palette on the right. So I'm going to get into that. This is Semitic in origin, just based on a lot of different things in the Namar palette, but we aren't here to break down the Namar palette today. So this would be Hathor, and this is her represented in her Trinity. And so a lot of people, what a lot of people don't realize is that the things that we see in the news, the things that we see celebrity, some of us are like, oh, that's just Egyptian, that's Egyptology. When I tell you that these celebrities know exactly who we are and where things lead back to. And they also, I'm talking black celebrities, operate in the form of voodoo, operate in strong forms of voodoo, while we may see the other nations operating in some type of Wicca, some type of black magic, two sides of the same coin. So this is Mommy Water. I talked about her before, but not in depth. And so this is a West African mother goddess. And so according to Bastanian, mommy waters associated with sex and lust is somewhat paradoxically linked to one with fidelity. According to a Nigerian tradition, male followers may encounter the spirit in the guise of beautiful sexual, such as promiscuous woman or prostitute. In Nigerian popular stories, Mommy Water may seduce a favorite male devotee and then show herself to him following coitus. She then demands his complete sexual faithfulness and secrecy about the matter. Acceptance means wealth and fortune. Rejection spells the ruin of his life, basically his family and his finances and his jobs. So there are some oral traditions that state that before we go to bed, and of course when we wake up, but before we go to bed, that we should write the Shema, because at night when men sleeps, that Lilith or other spirit wives and spirit husbands can come in, causing nocturnal emissions, causing wet dreams. It's also stated that a man should basically test his wife out to make sure that it's his wife before he goes to bed with her, because you have shape-shifting demons who will cloak as other people. These are what the oral traditions say, which lines up with West African history. It also brings us to the book of Proverbs, when the law of the mother was given to the son. And if you remember that, it was a lot of warning that went out, and this is for spiritual connotations as well. And so I've heard a lot of testimonies, whether it be online, in person, just by word of mouth, of, as a matter of fact, I'm going to link some videos so you guys can see this. It's a video in particular, maybe a couple of them. One, this gentleman's West African, and he was going into how he was a pastor at one point and how his membership was not growing. But then he made a covenant with the mermaid, with the water deity, and he had to feed it. And that these deities and sacrifice this and sacrifice that. And with that, churches began to grow. Wealth began to come in. But once the covenant was broken, then repercussion happened. Now, if we go to the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, biblically speaking, we see that this is definitely Afro-Asiatic in nature. He said that I did not reveal myself to your forefathers as this name. But we see that the covenant that our forefathers made was still in place even after they had left the earth, generations and generations later. But unfortunately, because of the type of people we are, we always tend to go back to the worshiping of the goddess and the perversion of the Most High. So another prominent aspect of mommy water deities is their connection to healing. If someone comes down with an incurable, languorous illness, mommy water often takes the blame. That the illness is evidence that mommy water has taken an interest in the afflicted person and that only she can cure him or her. Similarly, several other elements may be contributed to the water spirits. In Nigeria, for example, she takes place for everything from headaches to sterility. In fact, barren mothers often call on the spirit to cure their affliction. Many traditions hold that mommy water herself is barren. So if she gives a woman a child, the woman inherently becomes more distant from the spirit's true nature. The woman will less likely to become wealthy or attractive through her devotion to mommy water. Images of women with children often decorate shrines to the spirit. So let's talk, you guys, generational curses. There's a short clip that I showed on my page when I went into generational curses, and I added in a clip from the Mademoiselle or Chronicles of Zoe here on YouTube, and she's a Haitian American, and she began to go into their definition of generational curses and how people would make a deal with the Orishas or the Iwas, and they would make sacrifices and that they would make covenants, and that a lot of us are going through generational curses because our forefathers and our foremothers made these covenants but did not make good on them. So then we have infertility, loss of jobs, and divorces. And so these are spirit husbands and spirit wives, water spirits chasing us. And these things are real because this is who we made a covenant with. When we made a covenant with the Most High to serve Him, anytime we step outside of that covenant by entertaining another deity, we end up inflicting those curses in Deuteronomy 28 on ourselves. So, sound crazy, but we see it's biblical. So, right here, we see that we have the totem pole. And so, this was the Edo kingdom of Benin. And as you see, this is a Janus. Remember I just talked about that? Double tail figure with crowns. And so the Edos of in Benin, they're a conglomerate group mostly making up of Hebraic people from Esau, from our brother. So they look just like us, but there are some Israelites among that as well. So this is also a female figure. Now this is made of wood. So this would be representation of an Asherah pole, a figurine that was made out of wood to represent the gods. So let's make this Indus Valley connection. I'm not going to go too deep in it. But as you see, this is mommy water. But it has the Indian influence. And so this is John Goba. This is in Sierra Leone. This once again is made out of wood and pigments. So this is a mother with her children, snakes, and mommy waters fishtail. So this is another book that I'll cite for you guys right here. And so this is talking about Joseph Kosevi Ahart Tor. And so he was born in India. He was born with Indian spirits, and he visited India often. Sometimes in his dreams, um, he would be on the sea coast in Ghana. Very interesting. So he dreamt that he was swimming with them in the ocean, and thereafter called the male king of Mami Water and his queen Krishna. He has gathered these spirits under the ancient African celestial rainbow serpent deity Dan Idi Wedo, thus forging links between Africa, India, the sea, and ultimately the African Atlantic, where Dambala Wedo continues to be venerated by Haitians. I cannot wait to get into all of this, y'all. And so, as you see, the multiple heads, the multiple people to worship, the multiple gods to worship, the multiple arms. And so we see this. This is mommy water. Caduceus. Then we see it in ancient Sumer. This was the symbol of Ningishadita. And this was the libation base of an ancient Sumerian ruler. And this was 2100 BCE. The time is in, y'all. So this was once again an Indian depiction of mommy water. So we see this once again in India as well, but has Sumerian origins. So the name that the Most High is called by the Eagles is Chukua. And when you break it down into the four part, you will see the similarity between Yohe Wahe and also Chokma, which is wisdom, and Shava. So he was also horned wood. Okay, so Chukua created all earth. So in turn, all the deities of the eagle originated from earth. Deities can be made of wood and worshipped as gods. There are many deities in the eagle religion. Did not the Most High tell us not to make any gods by wood and by stone? Isn't this what we've seen done time and time again? This is another depiction. And if you notice all of the staffs in his hand, all of the staffs, this is for a reason. The crown, the white beard, the Ancient of Days. So Chi means spirit being, and Yukua means great inside. And so, as I've stated before, we see over in Eurasia, they take Chi and they talk about Chi, but these things are Afro-Asiatic in origin. And so, if we know that greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world, we're saying greater is He. Who is He? It's the Spirit that's in us than anybody that's in the world. So we make the Spirit of the Most High that has been breathed on the inside of us not when we became a living soul, but when we became awakening to His truth, that He's in us. Let this mind be in you, which is also in Yeshua Bar Yosef. Let's continue. These are Hebraic practices. So the concepts of Chukua, according to the Igbo, people who are Gadites, so they call Abraham the Igbo. They say based on their history that they are Gadites. And also I have a video that's very exciting about the Igbos that I encourage you guys to watch. According to the Igbo people, who are the majority in southeastern region of Nigeria, Shiniki is the creator of the universe and everything good in it, with rain, trees, and other plants. Chukua is the supreme deity represented by the sun. You don't say a sun deity. The ancient deity is not humanized in Igbo. So, as you guys see, what I said, the Most High and the Almighty, they don't like using the word God because for them, it is Germanic in origin and referring to an idol in the pre-Christian era. Isn't that interesting, you guys? Let's continue. So there are 6 aspects, or some people say 6 manifestations, 6 sides. Chukua, the first force and existence of all beings. Anayanu, the symbolic meaning of the sun. The sun reveals everything. So Chukua is the source of knowledge and the author of our knowledge. What did the son of the Most High come to do? Okay. Allah, the fertility of the earth, its people, and a spiritual world full of sub-deities. So we're going to continue. You guys can read that. So let's get into talking about Allah or Ani or Anna. What does that take us to? Okay. And so clearly she's a female of the earth, mortality, fertility, and creativity. And so she rules over the underworld and holds deceased ancestors in her womb. Her name literally translates to ground in Igbo language, denoting her powers over the earth, and her status as ground itself. Okay, and she is considered the highest, a Lucy. And her husband is Ahmad Dioha, the sky deity. So she's represented by the Python crescent moon. Okay. And so she was known to be protector of the land. It had a lot to do with human fertility. And they made life-size structures to begin to worship her. Okay, it is said that if a person commits a taboo in the community, that they have also desecrated or insulted Allah as the abomination was committed on her earth. Now we know, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was an instance where I believe it was the sons of Korah wanted to do something abominable, which was to operate in the office and the realm that the Levites had been set out to operate in. And so they offered up strange offerings, and the ground opened up and swallowed them up. The ground will produce famines and wars and different things of that nature if abomination takes place in the land. So once again, these are Hebraic customs. The Igbos have an oral tradition of worshiping Allah on top of a tail. This is mountaintop theology as protection and holiness. She was said to have departed from them and will only visit, yet no longer dwell with them. My spirit shall not always dwell with men. Okay. And so we see the horn female goddess. This is Allah, Ana, Ani. You see? Making connections. So these three I'm going to definitely link. This first video is breaking down the connection between, the possible connections between the pyramids in the Sudan, which were built out of mud, red mud bricks and clay, as well as tying it into some of the tales of ancient Sumer, so on and so forth. The second video is from an Igbo woman, and she's talking about the tale that you see down at the bottom. And they lived before Adam. Is actually has subtitles, and the Igbos are speaking to us, telling us about how they would worship the mother goddess on top of these tales. Because we know that as a Hebraic people, a people of old, not only would they go in caves, but the gods rested on a Mount Zion. What happened? The 200 fallen came down, according to extra biblical texts, on a mountain. And so this ties into also why they want to get the skyscrapers and why they want to break the firmament and rocket ships. Because if they can get to the gods, then for them they can be like the Most High. So this is an Igbo tale, as I first stated. So these are Sumerian daggers, and I want you guys to really pay attention to the colors of everything that I'm showing you right now. We're going to show pottery to tie in. So all of these artifacts look identical. This is from West Africa. This one is from Israel, Canaan. Then we see these are examples of the pottery in Nakata 1, Nakata 2, and Nakata 3. You see this? These were found in Israel. I'm going to prove some things. So Inanna, Ishtar, Asherah, Queen of Heaven. You see the horns, the bowls, the wings, the scepter, the lion, the Rosetta Star, bowed, subduing, a lion, taming. See the horns once again. Oya is the West African and diaspora Inanna, and I'm going to go into her more in depth, but she would be representation of Venus, representation of Diana. And as I stated in my last video, This is where Wonder Woman or Diana gets her tales. Shango is her husband. She is a sister wife. And you see, Shango would be a conglomerate of Superman and Thor. So let's continue. We see this is Neith. Her and Hathor are just kind of similar. Let's find out about her. So Neith is an Egyptian created goddess over the cosmos, fate, wisdom, water, rivers, mother, childbirth, hunting, weaving, as well as war. The English Egyptologist E.A. William Budge suggested that the Christian biblical account of the flight into Egypt, as recorded in the apocalyptical Gospels, was directly influenced by stories about Isis and Horus. So this is taking us to the quote-unquote New Testament, and it's going to tell us why some people do not subscribe to it because of the littering that went placed in it, the astrology that was placed in it, the Egyptology that was placed in. Budge argues that the writers of these Gospels ascribe to Mary, the mother of Jesus, many peculiarities which at the time of the rise of Christianity were perceived as belonging to both Isis and Neith. For example, the parthenogenesis concept shared by both Neith and Mary. So let's say the fact is that at these Nicene Council, the Chaldean Council, that Egyptians, Romans, Grecians came together to create doctrines that were given to us that went against everything that we were taught. And there have always been different sects, like the Sadducees, Pharisees, the Essenes, and, the Nazarenes, but these false doctrines. So the parthenogenesis literally means virgin creation. And so this is where a female being, specifically like an alligator, some reptilian, would be asexual. And they would have the possibility to basically clone themselves, make another child without the help of a man. And so this is what we are saying that Mary was able to do. And if we are saying that the Holy Spirit impregnated her, then we're saying that the Most High broke his own laws, and the reason, his own reason for flooding the earth. And so we really have to question our doctrines. So this is Annette. This is Annette. And my middle name, one of my middle names, is actually Jeanette. And it's Semitic in origin. And related to her Semitic war goddess, daughter of El and Asherah. Remember that the Virgin is what she's called, also the Queen of Heaven. And she was worshipped during the Hyksos period of Egypt. So that's very important to remember because I see a lot of people posting her, not even knowing that this isn't Egyptian. This is Semitic. And so Joseph's wife, Aneth, her name is believed to derive from the ancient Egyptian meaning that she belongs to Neith. Neith was an Egyptian goddess. We just went into that. So Neith and Annette would be the same goddess. Just had Semitic origins first because Annette predated what we see as Neith. And she was also worshipped, like I said, in Egypt during the Hyksos period. So that means that Semitic people, whether they be Amorites, whether they be Shashu of Yahweh, Hibiru, a conglomerate of Hebraic people, we know that she was worshipped during the period that the Israelites were in Egypt. So this name is also used commonly in present-day Israel. So the goddess named Annette is preserved in the cities Beth Aneth, Anathoth, Thoth, Anathoth. Seems to be a plural. Okay, so this is houses of Annette. And so the ancient hero Shamgar, son of Annette, is mentioned in Judges 3:31 and 5 and 6. And so, of course, people began to raise question of whether he was a judge or some type of demigod. So if we look in Elephantine in Egypt on the 5th series, the Elephantine Papyri made mention of a goddess called Anet Yahu or Anet Yahweh, worshipped in the temple to Yahweh, originally built by Jewish refugees from the Babylonian conquest of Judah. So hold on. After the Israelites left their Babylonian captivity and they worshiped in the temple to Yahweh, they also began to, these suggested that even in exile and beyond, the worship of the female deity endured. So they brought a net into the temple. And it shows that even in captivity, that these people will always go back to their gods. So the texts are written by a group of Jews living in Elephantine near the Nubian border, whose religion had been described as nearly identical to Iron Age II Judite religion. The papyrus described the Jews as worshiping Anet Yahu or Anet Yahu as being described as either his wife or sacred consort of Yahweh. Wow. This is interesting, to say the least. These are things that I knew, but when you begin to delve into this and you see that it says that it was identical to the worship that we had in the Iron Age, monotheism did not come into the Israelites' belief or culture until after our Assyrian captivity. This was very, very, very new to us. During the Second Temple rebuild, is when you started to see. So we see this netter here has a scepter, has an ankh. So this is Reshef. And so this means flame, firebolt, derived from a meaning to burn. So this was seen as the consort. And so pestilence, burning coal. And this preceded before Aloha from Timan, which is where in Arabia. And Mount Paran, pestilence and burning coal went out. So this can be found in Elba. And so, according to the Septuagint translation in Job 5 and 7, the sons of Resheph is mentioned. And again, probably introduced in Egypt by the Hyksos, Resheph was not assimilated into the Egyptian pantheon until the New Kingdom's 18th dynasty. What was going on in the 18th dynasty in the Bible? So he was associated with Seth and Montu and other deities related to Warren Plague. But he also formed a triad with Me and Katesh. So we're going to get into Katesh in a little bit. It was connected to Hathor, but was nowhere near synonymous. So we see, as a great word deity is related to kingship, is shown by a stele erected by Amenhotep II. Let's see who this is. Once again, see the coiled snakes going up the rod. Nergal, Mesopotamian god of war, pestilence, and the underworld. So he was worshiping Kusa. So we're going to go, and we see this was taking place during the Assyrian captivity under Sargon II, king of Assyria. This could be found in 2 Kings. The 17th chapter is also talked about in Isaiah the 11th chapter, so on and so forth. And so there was a temple built of Nergal at Kutha, which fell into ruin, so that Nebuchadnezzar II had to rebuild the temple of the gods. These are all the captivities proving that the biblical is historically accurate. So Kum was the consort of Neith, created god of the potter's wheel, made humans from clay, and placed them in the womb, worshiping Elephantine and during Ramses II. So does not this sound like what we say, you are the potter, and I am the clay, mold me and make me remold, come on now. So I briefly went into Dumuzi, who was Tammuz, the shepherd, the dying and rising God. Briefly went into him. This is what you get for Easter. For him for Lent. This is what I'll say. And so he ended up convincing Inanna to marry him. And he would spend a half of the year in the other world and the other half. And so they accredit him for the cycles of the seasons. And they make him synonymous to Adonis. And so the cult of Ishtar and Tammuz continued. And so we see him being mentioned in the book of Ezekiel. Mhm. Ancient Mesopotamian clay tablets right here. This is containing a lamentation over the death of Tammuz. This is between 2000 to 1600 BC, the Amorite period. Amorites, Hyksos, Afro-Asiatic Israelites. So this is a man fighting for quadruplets, and so this was dedicated to Tammuz, an early dynasty, 2600 BC. So these are more proof, and this is the story I'm telling you guys about him having to convince. So this part is a little erotic right here, but it's very important. This is about Inanna and Tammuz, the vulva, the horn, the bolt of heaven, is full of eagerness, like the young moon. My untilled land lies follow. As for me, Inanna, who will plow my vulva, who will ply my high field, who will ply my wet ground. As for me, the young woman, who will plow my vulva, who will station the ox there, who will plow my vulva, make your milk sweet and thick, my bridegroom, my shepherd, I will drink your fresh milk. Wild bull demuzi, make your milk sweet and thick. I will drink your fresh milk. Let the milk of the goat flow in my sheepfold. Fill my holy churn with honey cheese. Lord Demuzi, I will drink your flesh milk. These are what we went back to. So Ezekiel 8 and 14. Then he brought me to the door of the gate and the Lord's house, which was towards the north. And behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz, 40 days to lament. The children gathered wood, and the fathers kindled the fire, and the woman knead their dough to make cakes to the queen of heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto other gods, that they may provoke me to anger. Jeremiah 7 and 18. Jeremiah 44 and 18. This is reading about Asherah, for Solomon went after Asherah, the goddess of the Zidonians, after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. See, Asherah is mentioned again in 1 Kings 11 and 33, and in so many other places in the Bible. So Balaam and Asherah, Judges 10 and 6. So these two articles right here actually go into the origins of Lent. This is the Vatican's website, which gives you the catechisms of Rome. And this is a PDF breakdown telling you exactly what articles to look into, to see where it originated from. So Asherah was a Semitic mother goddess. It's a breasted goddess, long skirt. So her consort would have been El or Baal, many others as well. And she's supposed to be the mother of the 77 gods. When it said, let us go down to see what's going on. And then the Most High gave a nation to the different gods. And he put her away for being unfaithful and for taking his worship. See, between the 10th century BC and the beginning of their Babylonian exile in 586 BC, polytheism was normal throughout Israel. Worship solely of Yahweh became established only after the exile and possibly only as late as the time of the Maccabees. This is the Grecians, which is why I said, excuse me. That is when the monotheism became universal among the Jews. Some biblical scholars believe that Asherah at one time was worshipped as the consort of Yahweh, which is what we stated. And so these are some archaeology findings. If you read Yahweh of Samaria and his Asherah. So it says Exodus chapter 32 and 5, and they're saying that this calf whom the children of Israel had Aaron built, name was Yahweh. And it says, when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made proclamation and said, it said, tomorrow is a feast to the Yahweh, to the Lord. And so these was anthropomorphic figures. The inscriptions found refer not only to Yahweh, but to El and Baal, and to the phrases Yahweh of Samaria and his Asherah, Yahweh of Teman and his Asherah. The reference to Samaria of the kingdom of Israel and Teman and Edom suggests that Yahweh had a temple built in Samaria. So no, the Edomites worshipped a god named Kaus. And so there's this book source that I wanted to go back for you guys. History Vanquished, Goddess Asherah. And so this is by Darlene Koznick. A lot of people believe that Asherah name was removed from the Bible. I want to say 62 times in order to remove the woman and the feminine aspect from the Bible. And so we see here that it can mean grows or poles, translating from Asherim or Asherats. And so this would take us back to the poles that we saw being built up, looking, mommy water, and worshipped as a pole, female deity. So this was found in Kerbet El Kom, 750 to 700 BC. And by his Asherah from his enemies he saved him. And by his Asherah, and by his Asherah. Giving Yahweh a T-man and his Asherah. Yahweh a T-man and his Asherah. I have blessed you by Yahweh of Samaria and his Asherah. So we see the dates on that, 830 to 760 BC. So Kadesh, or Kadesh, Ruach Kadesh, meaning holy, meaning blessed, attested as a title of El. So you see her, she's horned, she has an ankh. Kadesh, holy goddess, Semitic in origin, and often seen as a trinity. Some scholars say she is fertility power, while others argue otherwise. The Ruach Okay, so below I have scriptures explaining marriage and virginity. If any man take a wife and go unto her and hate her and give occasions of speech against her and bring up an evil name upon her and say, I took this woman, and when I came unto her, I found her not to be a maid. Then shall the father of the damsel and the mother take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel virginity unto the elders of the city in the gate. And the damsel father shall say unto the elders, I gave my daughter unto this man to wife, and he hateth her. And lo, have given occasion of speech against her, saying, I found not thy daughter a maid. And yet these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity. Tokens of virginity, meaning you look over into those movies like Rain, and the king would consummate his marriage with the virgin. The Hebrew people did this on white linens, so that when the hymen would break, if the hymen would break, that the woman would have proof that she was a virgin. Because unfortunately, you have men who will humble a woman. She will give him her virginity, and he will just up and bounce. Never got the permission of her father, hasn't paid the dowry of a virgin, and there is even a price for a prostitute in the Bible, Judah and Tamar. And so, guys, I'm going to wrap this one up and let you guys know that there will be a part 2 of this coming up very, very soon, because I'm going to take all of these different worships and tie it into how the worship has seeped into our homes, seeped into our churches, seeped into our Israelite organizations. So thank you so much for viewing once again. Like, comment, subscribe, share the videos on your social media. And until we meet again, thank you guys. It's been Jacoya from Jacoya Jeans.